2, 1. Hello everyone, welcome to Tactica Imperialis and to today's video. Today is episode 140 of Adeptus Podcastus. Oh, I just missed the chance to do it like they do it in the darts. Never mind. Joining me as always is Remleiz from 40k Theories.
I'm still not quite dead.
You sound a lot better, and I haven't heard a hacking cough in the 10 minutes we've been talking, so it's an improvement.
You're going to jinx that now.
Sorry. But yes, things are starting to return to normal on the health front, which is good.
I bloody well hope so, at least.
Yeah, agreed. And, well, we picked a very, very good time for GW to do reveals early. Because we are recording this on the 28th of January, which means that we are just in time to talk about the Las Vegas Open reveal preview, which they decided to do on Friday, which was very kind of them because it means we get to talk about it now.
At 6 o'clock in the morning for some reason.
I mean, yeah.
That was a weird time.
It's worth bearing in mind, that's 6 o'clock UK time. That's 1 in the morning American East Coast time.
The Las Vegas Open at 1 o'clock in the morning in Las Vegas. Or is it, no, it's early than that, isn't it?
It'd be like 11 p.m. or 10 p.m. on the West Coast.
Yeah.
But still, if you're trying to appeal to your American audience with this preview at an American show, then do it at like 3 to 6 o'clock American time and make it like 10 or 11 o'clock UK time.
Yeah, because Las Vegas is about 8 hours behind us, isn't it? So
give it 8 hours, yeah.
Yeah, so about 10 o'clock at night, yeah.
Yeah, that
random time.
Agreed. I mean, I was awake because I had to get up for work because it was a weekday. But I think the Twitch stream had 28k viewers, which is still very good. Don't get me wrong. It was definitely a stream for the Australian audience and more the European and the everywhere east of Games Workshop audience in terms of timings.
Yeah,
but there was still plenty revealed on that show. Perhaps less than some people were expecting and or / hoping for, but still plenty to discuss, I think.
We got plenty, yeah, I feel.
We did. 40k got plenty.
Well, you got a big reveal for 30k as well, in fairness.
We did. So, I think the best place to start is with 40k, because that's where the big meat and potatoes is. With the full reveal, almost full reveal, of the Craft World Eldari range update. Now, due to potato cam leaks that keep happening, there were a lot of leaks around this Eldari stuff. I've got to be completely honest, there were a lot of leaks.
Oh, yeah.
We already had some pictures circulating of the Avatar of Kane model update, so they decided to release that a day early. Compared to LVO.
Yeah, it's not just that. It's that someone leaked images that weren't just potato cam. They actually leaked the revealed at preview Las Vegas Open images as well before the stream.
Yeah, they did. So
someone in GW is probably like being very closely watched right now, I feel.
Quite possibly. But speaking of that Avatar of Kane model, we already had a rough idea of what it looked like, and now we know what it really looks like, and it's ruddy good.
It is really nice, yeah. One thing I was worried about when they were going to reveal it is it going to be too scrawny, too spindly? But no, this seems to be very nicely proportioned, nice big chunky boy.
Yeah, it's not overly out of proportion chunky either. It's
perfectly proportioned, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's chiseled, literally, because it's made of molten rock type thing.
Iron.
But it does look really good. The pose I quite like to some extent. I hope the head can be turned because the bloody hand raised.
I imagine it can, because the surprising thing in regards to the Avatar is that we've actually got head options.
And weapon options.
So
yes, there are 3 Avatar heads that we've seen. The classic one, a more almost
Roman centurion, like a centurion style helmet.
Yeah, centurion. That's a good word for it. And then a bear head as well. I'm assuming that's to appeal to the Ynnari players, because Ynnari armies seem to all go without helms, according to everything I've read in the Path of the preview. So it allows to have consistency if you put your avatar in your Ynnari army, that it's got no helmet. They've done something really interesting with the face, in that the face is white whilst the rest of the body is molten red. Or at least the ones in a helmet are. The one without a helmet doesn't do this, which is a curious design decision. It doesn't sit right with me. I don't know why it looks off.
Yeah, I get what you mean, but it still looks good, I feel. I mean, let's be honest, you can paint your avatar however you want, so if you want to give it, red face all over, you can. I imagine what they were going for is that the helmet is basically containing the heat of the avatar in the face, so it's basically glowing white hot or something, or something to that effect. I don't know.
Possible. I think they could have solved the problem, though, by just painting the armour a different colour so that the face could match the body and it wouldn't colour clash. That would have solved the problem just as easily, because the scheme they've gone for is sort of deep red armour and molten rock, which is a nice scheme, don't get me wrong. It allows the Wailing Doom and the fire and the blood to pop. But did it have to be all red, or could it have had some gold or some silver?
He is meant to be made out of like molten lead, essentially. So I can see what they were going for. But yeah, speaking of the Wailing Doom, as we mentioned briefly earlier, their weapon options, so you can have like the classic sword, the spear, or this time a new one round, an axe.
I remember you saying when we had the teaser images on New Year's Day about please be a spear, please be a spear, please be a spear. So you got your wish on that one.
I am, yes. And the axe. The axe is surprising because I remember that the axe was mentioned in lore, like really old lore. Like the Wailing Doom can take the form of any weapon, be it a sword, spear, or axe, or whatever. But I think it's the first time we've ever actually seen it as a model.
Yeah, there is, and the old avatar that you have mentioned before had a spear, and then the avatar's gone over to the sword variation for a good long chunk of time. It's interesting how like the sword is like a great sword. It can be swung two-handed kind of thing. The spear is pretty long-hafted by for what I can see, and the axe just looks like a one-handed axe. It's not a great axe.
Yeah.
In terms of the blade's proportions, anyway.
I would imagine, like, if Wailing Doom was going to be an axe, it would probably be more like, I don't know, like a battle axe, like a big double-bladed thing,
Yeah, I'm thinking the hammers of the Alaris Spirit of the Mountain, where you either have two of them, which is single-handed, or one absolutely whack-off one. But no, that's not the decision they've gone for. I don't mind it. I'm not complaining. It's just an interesting design decision that they've made.
Oh, yeah. One thing I have a very, very, very slight issue with are the flames coming out of the legs. Like, I'm hoping these can be like separate pieces that you can customize and like put the flames wherever you want on the avatar's body. Because like the one on the foot, for example, just seems very obviously just glued on. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the idea is, they want it to be low on the body to represent the idea of it almost rising out of a pit of fire, and thus the flames are still clinging to its lower body as it rises up. But,
I totally get that.
And the knee pad ones look really nice. It's just, that one on the foot looks dodgy. I'll give you that.
I'm hoping we get some like modular flame options or something. Like, can you imagine like having the flame bits, like, the bit on the base, with the flame and the flaming skull? Mm-hmm. Imagine if we had something like that we could put on the Wailing Doom so we get a big fuck-off flaming sword kind of thing. That would be awesome.
Agreed. Also, we should probably make clear that skull is probably the Exarch that was sacrificed to create the avatar. Or summon it.
I don't think so, considering that, the Exarch is sacrificed in the chamber of the avatar on the craft world. So it's like, unless this avatar's based on a craft world itself, why would the skull of the Young King still be there?
But the avatar's rune is on the platform that it's standing on. And they made a point of it in the stream to say where it's standing has got the avatar's rune on it.
Oh, I missed that. Okay, so it could be then. Okay, fair enough.
I mean, you could certainly headcanon it as such anyway.
Yeah.
And it's another nice touch they pointed out is that it's got charms of all the different aspect shrines on it, like the warp spiders and the Dire Avengers and stuff like that, just hanging off of it, which is a really nice touch. And
I think that was present on the original. Well, I say the original, the second edition one that we were stuck with for like
28
decades.
Years?
Well, since 1994, I think it
28
was.
years, yeah.
Yeah. On the original one, he still had the aspect shrine charms all over his body.
Fair enough. Also, shout out to the person who painted that yin yang symbol on it, because that must have been a right pain in the rear.
They must have gotten the person who did the freehand on that Beast Snagger boss. You know, those tribal tattoos.
Yeah. I know the one. But the avatar...
In fairness, it could also just be a transfer.
Could be, but awkward on that wibbly surface. Mind you, our other prediction based on the teaser trailers we got was, of course, Malgan Ra of the Dark Reapers, and I'm going to say a controversial thing now. I don't like it.
I don't like it either, because I mean, let's be honest. You know, I think we're all sick of the tactical rock pose to make character models look bigger.
But he looks like he's doing. He looks like this is going to say. He looks like he's performing a sick guitar riff in a really, really edgy metal band.
As someone who used to be in a really edgy metal band, not too far off. But what I don't really like is that there's a few things I don't like. Firstly, it looks really over-designed and cluttered, I feel. I think like the presence of the trench coat and the long towel draped over his head doesn't help. I was going to say hood, but it's got like long bits to make it look like long flowy hair. I tell you what he looks like. He looks like that guy from Overwatch.
Oh god, he does look right Reaper, doesn't he?
Appropriately enough, yeah. But the one thing I also don't like, he looks way too like lithe, like compared to the original Malgan Ra, because the original Malgan Ra was basically like a big. He was basically he was a tank. Pardon me.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
He was a tank of a bloke. Big, heavy armor. Basically, emphasizing the whole Dark Reaper aspect of, sheer firepower and, indomitable, staying power. And this guy just looks so delicate in comparison, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, what took it for me is that he looks like a Necron.
The face does look... I mean, let's be honest, we all know that Necron faces are very skull-like, but this one does look like a Necron skull more than anything else, yeah.
Yeah, he's got a Death Jester's mask for a belt clasp. Then there's... And the whole shoulder pads being made of bone thing, when we saw that tease, I assumed that they were going to go, over the shoulder. But they don't. It just sort of looks like he's got a backpack made out of spinal cord for no good... He does have a backpack made out of spinal cord for no good reason.
I mean, in fairness, the original model also had one, but on the original, it worked.
And it wasn't so obvious, because look at how far off his back it sits. It's so obvious.
Yeah.
But I will say, the Mao guitar, because they couldn't really get that wrong, the Mao guitar looks great.
It does look nice, yes. I'll give you that.
I like the idea of the withered rose, because Malgan Ra has seen some S-word. Altansar going into the Eye of Terror to rescue and drag Altansar out. Malgan Ra has been round the block and seen it.
Yeah, I don't like the fact he's got the towel over his head.
Yeah, the whole head is wrong. The backpack, I think they could have either not put the spinal cord back banner on and got away with it, or just had the spinal cord back banner without the extra plating, maybe, and got away with it. And the pose is... This man is not firing a gun.
The pose is pretty much identical to the original. That's one thing that annoys me. They didn't bother trying to change up the pose at all.
Yeah, they did a bit with Jane Zar, but at least the original Malgan Ra looked like he was actually, standing with his gun in a reasonable position. Like he can swing that and fire. etc. He's sighting a target, and then he'll swing the gun and shoot. Or if they get too close, he'll swing it.
He's basically bringing the gun around.
Yeah, whereas this Malcolm Ra is standing there to look cool and or edgy.
Yeah.
Like, it's not in a... Like, I get maybe they're going for it is in like a scythe swing pose, like you get on a Death Guard miniature, but it's a gun. First and foremost, it's a gun. Treat it like a gun. Because that's what he's known for, is for having a gun.
Yeah. I mean, I still think, like, the whole skull, shoulder pads, and head combo looks better on the original.
It does. If you hadn't seen the original, you'd probably go, a bit much, but alright. But compared to the original, it feels overdone and a step backwards. It's the most over-designed model since Constantine Valdor.
I mean, all they had to do, really, for Malcolm Ra, is take the old one and just adjust the proportions, you know, and that was basically it. Like, make
we can't say, oh, just upgrade the old one to look like it's new, and then knock them for saying they haven't changed it from the old one. Right? We can't have our cake both ways here.
I mean, you say Burn, you can just point to pretty much any Space Marine model.
I mean, yes, but if they're going to jazz him up like they've done, then make it clear and obvious that it's different from the original. If you're going to make it a true tribute to the original, then stick closer to the original and just jazz up the proportions and things rather than completely redesign him.
Yeah, because if you're going to completely redesign him, I would prefer if they gave him a completely different pose.
Yeah, like, if you want him in a combat pose, then okay, but it's not
have him
what
like
he's known
holding
for.
the gun. I mean, you can maybe like a pose of him, like, I don't know, holding the gun forward as if he's actually shooting it.
Yeah, either in a shooting pose or mid-swing, like have the gun much lower and have him like in a Ferrus Manus kind of pose where he's swinging that gun. And he could even be firing all the while because it's Malcolm Ra, he's that good. Yeah, and the pose just does nothing for him with the double tactical rock in the classic leg spread air guitar. Like, I can hear the riff going in my ear just looking at his legs. I can hear it.
He's just waiting for someone to just kick him in the plums. In that pose, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, sorry internet if you liked Malgan Ra, we don't.
If you like him, that's fine. Personally, I think it looks absolutely dreadful compared to the original.
Yeah, and especially considering how well they redid the Dark Reapers. Like, yeah.
Speaking of Aspect Warriors,
yes,
Shining Spears.
Yeah, this is one of the other things that got leaked. Not pictures of the models, but pictures of them in the Codex. So we knew these guys were coming, or if you've paid attention to leaks anyway. Yeah. But they have redesigned the Shining Spears, and they look really nice.
Yeah, I mean, while Malgan Ra is like over-designed and cluttered, these are simple, crisp, clean, and just look great.
Yeah. Like, it's clearly Eldari, it's clearly jet bikes, but the lances are simple enough. Even the Champion's lance, all they've done is put a bigger crystal and a bit of a pennant on. The helm's barely done anything with. There's a little back banner on the back of the bike. The laser cannons underneath don't extrude and look particularly crazy. They're noticeable, but you wouldn't say they look unnatural. And maybe it's because it's just clean, crisp white as opposed to edgy black and bone. But they do look really clean and crisp and simple, effective. More of this, please.
Oh, yeah. I really like these ones, yeah. They're just going to be an absolute pain in the ass to paint because white is always a chore to paint.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. Before we go on to the rest of the LVO previews, might also touch upon some of the other Eldari releases, or reveals rather, that came out a few days prior.
Yes.
The Warlocks.
Yeah, so this was the last path of the preview before LVO, where we got to look at the new Eldari Warlocks, and rather like the Guardians, the Dark Reapers, the Rangers, and those sorts of things, they took a classic miniature, jazzed it up a bit, made it look exactly the same but better, called it a day, and everybody rejoiced. Yeah,
because with some of the upgrade options they showed one holding a Witchblade in one hand, holding a Shuriken pistol up in the air, and the helmet with the Mohawk And as soon as I saw that, I immediately thought that's a reference to a model that was available in 2nd edition, and I know it was because I actually had that model. And it's just like one of those things, like, it's so nice when you can actually, like, get a reference and do it properly. Like this warlock is a reference to an old miniature and does the updated version properly.
Yeah. It's nothing crazy. Like, they are simple, but they look like Eldari. Like, if you asked me redesign the Eldari Warlock kit, I don't think I could have done any better. Yes, okay, we still have tactical rock, but they've got casting poses, simple blades, singing spears, longer witch blades, and just, yeah, nothing to say. They look good. I'm not an Eldari person particularly, despite the fact I play elves all the time, but they look good. They look fine. No complaints.
My only minor complaint is that the unhelmeted head has the chin strap. I'm not too keen on the chin strap, but aside from that, they look fine.
That's a very Eldari thing, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, fair.
I'm just not a fan of chin straps. Just like, you know how some people hate the fact that everyone in 40k has a top knot.
Yeah, yeah, it's one of those pet peeves.
Yeah. And
Agreed.
Going to the next LVO reveal, sticking with Eldari, Corsairs.
Yes, so Kill Team is going to Necromunda. We knew this. The Commandos and Deathcore Kill Team came out, or are about to land on shelves if they haven't already. And the next Kill Team is going to be involving the, what are they called? The Corsair Void Scarred, a Eldari Corsair Kill Team that will be available to take in both Craftworld and Drukhari armies when they finally release in full.
Nice. I would say the Corsair model they showed, I really like the fact he's got like a hawk with him. He's like a proper hawker.
Yeah, it's got a really cool curved blade.
It's a cutlass. It's an elf cutlass.
Yes. The armor looks crisp. You can tell it's got Eldari influences, but it's neither Craftworld nor Drukhari, which I like. The only thing that I think makes this model annoying is the fact that because it's got a bird and he's reaching forward with the right hand to release the bird, that model, whilst it's probably not going to fall over a lot, is going to get knocked over a lot because the bird protrudes so much, or the bird is going to snap off.
I mean, in regards to knocking the model over, all you got to do is, like, on the underside of the base, just glue, like, a 2p coin or something.
No, it's not because it's too heavy, it's just because it sticks out so much. When you're moving it round the board, if it gets into base contact with something tall or something with a protruding sword or spear, they're going to bump into one another if you're not careful.
Oh, right, yeah, okay, fair enough.
And in boxes, having played with Ether Wings in my Stormcast army and the like, birds on little tassels love to snap.
Just like Celestine.
Correct. That said, I mean, it's a cool kill team. We've only seen one miniature so far, but it's going to be a cool-looking kill team. And a faction that is long overdue. Many have requested them in a codex before. So, yeah.
Because when was the last time we actually had Corsair rules? It was Doom and Mimir, wasn't it?
I honestly couldn't tell you because I didn't keep track of Eldar until they got broken in 6th edition. And even then it was just in terms of, jet bikes are busted. Avoid everyone who plays jet bikes.
Because I know Forge World used to sell Corsair miniatures. So I think it must have been in regards to tying into Doom and Mimir, because that actually did have rules for Corsairs in it.
Did it? Right, okay.
Yeah. Before then, the only thing I can think of that actually had rules in a codex for Corsairs was 2nd edition, but that was but they weren't even called Corsairs; they were just called Eldar Pirates.
Yeah, it also makes reference in the trailer to them being pirates and ninjas. So make of that what you will.
I mean, ninja elf pirates.
Yes. LVO's next stop, staying with the 41st millennium for a moment. Necromunda Ash Wastes. Over to you on this one.
Yes, it's a new expansion for Necromunda. So instead of just playing games in the Underhive, you're going out into the wastes of Necromunda itself, where there is pretty much fuck all but ash and train tracks.
And death.
So now, what's basically being implied here from the trailer, because the fact we're seeing quite a few vehicles, is that we're going to get rules for Ash Nomad gangs, which basically are gangs who end up using things like bikes and buggies. So part of me's thinking, ooh, we're going to get a Necromunda expansion that's going to play like Gorka Morka, which is fucking fantastic.
Yeah, they did make a lot of points in the preview, because I was awake at the time, of vehicular warfare coming to Necromunda. They make it very clear. And the word Gorka Morka went through my head. Like, when they started the trailer, I went, is this Gorka Morka? No, it's Necromunda. But this is them doing Gorka Morka without having to do Gorka Morka, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I think the closest we actually had to, like, you know, a proper Gorka Morka reboot was when they did that Speed Freaks game, like, back in October years ago.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
No. But, like, for those of you who haven't played Gorka Morka, I'm not going to say this, it's one of the funnest skirmish games you'll ever play. Literally just, like, proper Mad Maxing everything, ramming each other with, like, bikes and trucks and tracks and stuff like that. It's just so much fun. Yeah, and it's a shame that so many people did not actually play it. I was gutted the fact, because, like, in my game store, I was, like, one of the few people who actually had the game. Like, and I think one thing that did turn people off, at least initially, was that during the initial release of Gorka Morka, you only had, like, two gangs, essentially, Gorkas and Morkas, who are both orcs. That did change with the release of the Digger Knob expansion, because you had added Digger gangs, Rebel Grots, and Muties. And the Muties being completely different from any other gangs, because they don't actually use any vehicles of any sort. They're a complete cavalry gang, essentially.
Right.
And it was just so much fun, that game. And it's a shame that people didn't play it more. But I'm hoping, with the Ash Waste expansion, it brings back, you know, or essentially basically updates old Gorka Morka style rules for vehicle combat, things like, you know, like side shunting, T-boning, you know, boarding actions, that kind of thing, to have, you know, a really fast...
That's Dreadfleet, mate. That's Dreadfleet.
Well, you can ram each other on both boats and trucks, yes.
Yeah. When you hear those phrases, that's that Dreadfleet box game of Abomination.
Which nobody bought for some reason.
Some reason.
For some reason, yes. But yeah, like, Gorka Morka was super fun, super fast-paced, and I'm hoping this will incorporate some of the fast-paced action into that as well.
Yeah, I think it'll be a blended expansion where you can either play it that way, vehicular warfare type thing, or they'll allow you to use your old ganger models in, for example, armoured convoys. They make a big deal in the preview of talking about transport convoys and things like that. And the trailer takes place on a train, being attacked by what I can assume by your description are the Ash Nomads. I don't know if you watched the animated trailer, but...
I did, yeah. Considering they all seem to be on buggies and you don't see them, I'm guessing that is the teaser for Ash Nomads, because, like, the whole thing about the Ash Nomads is that they live in the Ash Wastes. So...
Yeah, fair enough. So yeah, that's what I'm assuming, but I think the current gangers will play on convoys where you'll have to deal with high speed, potential sharp maneuvers, braking, being thrown out, sort of like out of action by being kicked out of the window, Sparta style. I think that'd be a quite interesting place to take Necromunda, in terms of you're not fighting for territory, you're fighting to hang on and kick the blasted invaders off your blasted train type thing, where you've got
I'm
key
looking
cargo
forward
to
to
protect.
I am super looking forward to it.
Good. I think, yeah,
sorry. I was just going to say, for the next reveal, this initially caused a few people to effectively prolapse because they all thought it was going to be Angron.
Yeah, I went through 3 to 5 seconds of Angron. But no, it was Commander. And I'm not bloody complaining, because it's a bloody lovely model.
Oh, absolutely.
So, Commander, General of Khorne, has been revealed for the character series. The largest character series model by quite a stretch. And I've got to be honest, best Bloodthirster ever?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I mean, I know that that's possibly not saying much, but I really like the plastic bloodthirster that they have at the minute. And this is just a really different take on that bloodthirster, because the wing is in a standing pose with more tactical rock.
In fairness, it does look like he's going to be like, he's not standing fully onto it just to increase his height. He's basically like, part of his foot's on the floor and the other foot's on top of basically the amount of corpses that are on top of a tactical rock.
Oh yeah, I know, but still. But the bloodthirsters that they use in plastic are in a very much a running pose, leaping, flying, etc. And then Scarbrand, of course, because Scarbrand plays by his own rules. I think this would look really cool if someone made it in like a Golden Demon duel against Scarbrand. Like those two would be really naturally well posed against one another, I think.
Part of me now wishes that the Sanguinius model was delayed, just so we could have like a scenic connecting base thing to have Sanguinius versus Kabanda.
It's funny, as soon as I saw the model, like, is this designed to pair with Sang? ? I wondered if that's where they were going with it. Because Sang does kind of have that leaping down pose. And if you tilted Kabanda's head up and his axe arm up, you could probably make it work like that. So again, Golden Demon people, duel, Cygnus Prime, please when?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be honest, you could probably market him better if it was like, instead of Kabanda, the Demon General of Khorne, no, Kabanda, the bitch of Sanguinius.
Let's not forget that Kabanda bitched out Sanguinius the first time round.
Let's not forget that Sanguinius snapped Kabanda's spine over his knee.
The second time round, yes, but so they're 1-1.
Yeah, but let's be honest, everyone's always going to remember the fact he got his back broken.
I know. Magnus knows that all too well. But I do really like the fact that he's really armoured. It's really cool demon armour. The axe looks sick. I don't know why it's so curved, but it is, and it looks really good. And for once, they found a way that makes a whip look like it makes sense rather than just being swung out all over the show. I really like what they've done with the whip.
It actually looks like he's in the process of just bringing it back to swing it forward again.
Or he's just lifting it because, he's a badass, but he's not actually able to launch it out to make a point. I'm sorry, go on.
I was going to say, like, another good thing about this model is that he actually looks like he's in the middle of a fight.
That too.
Like, you can just stick him in the middle of a huge crowd of like Blood Angels minis, and it look completely natural. He's beating the shit out of all of them.
Agreed. One thing that was in the trailer and then never got touched on again that I want to draw people's attention to if you didn't watch the trailers. There's a new Horus Heresy logo.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. So like Warhammer, the Horus Heresy, there's like a new eye logo underneath it.
Yeah, like they didn't address it in the preview discussion. They didn't address it in the article. They don't address it at all. But the Horus Heresy has had a logo rebrand into Warhammer, the Horus Heresy, because branding, probably.
Hi, Adam.
Yes, thank you. I knew someone would get it. But yeah, it's interesting that they've done that, and maybe that's a sort of a hint as to what's to come in terms of when Horus Heresy 2.0 comes out, if there is such a thing. That's how they revamp it into its new edition. This isn't just the Horus Heresy standalone game. It is a Games Workshop integrated product supported by Forge World, and thus it needs to fall in line as a true third Warhammer game of 40k AOS Heresy. That is the third Warhammer game. It's kind of like, to use another wrestling thing, it's like why it's WWE NXT rather than just NXT. So it belongs to the same brand and they're on the same area as one another, I guess. Or am I just talking nonsense?
Why did they change Walter's name to Gunther?
Yeah, I know.
Why?
I know. But
how long was the NXT UK champion for? Like close to 3 years?
800
as Walter,
days.
And they called
800 and something days.
800 days. And they decided to name him after the guy who runs the coffee shop in Friends.
I know.
Fucking...
I know. But either way, Commander is cool, and I get the feeling that AOS and 40k and 30k players, if they can afford it, are definitely going to be getting their hands on him.
And this next thing, I imagine you're going to get your hands on, because it involves Daughters of Kane.
No.
Really?
This is going to sound controversial coming from Captain Elf, but there's too many elves at the minute. No, Tactica.exe has not stopped working. Let me explain. So, Arena of Shades. New AOS battle box pitting new Nighthaunt against Daughters of Kane. We get a new crossbow unit for Nighthaunt, which is an interesting direction to take them. As well as a new character, the Scriptor Mortis, basically AOS Death Note. And the Daughters get a new character as well, the High Gladiatrix, which is a really cool idea lore-wise, and also looks really cool. So yes, I would quite like one when the time comes.
And that was the model which I initially thought was going to be like a new Drukhari witch or something.
Yes, that's what that model is, you're right.
I mean, you could use her as a witch in fairness. It's certainly
absolutely
appropriate.
The Sister Slaughter and Witch Elves could all be used as such. But where I have a problem is two things. Well, yeah, okay, three things. One, this is designed as a sequel and a follow-up to Broken Realms Morathi, and is set in Har-Kuron. Har-Kuron, by the way, is Anvilgard, the free city that was annexed and conquered by Morathi Kane. This was a perfect opportunity to update elements of the Cities of Sigmar roster and do their AOS 3 book. You know, maybe update I'm just looking at the kits. A lot of them are from the 8th edition Dark Elves, but maybe update Cold One Knights, update the Dark Elf Assassin, get new shades as a new unit for them to pair alongside the Shadow Warriors, redo something, just redo a couple of things, introduce a new character or two, and update the Dark Elf contingent if you want to stick with elves, or, God forbid, you do something with the humans, but it is Har-Kuron, so it's an elven city, so fine. This could have been a real good opportunity to introduce new miniatures to the Cities of Sigmar for the first time in...
Ever?
Okay, the Vendensts do count, but also they don't count, go away. So, one, it was a perfect lore excuse to update a bunch of models and rules for the Cities of Sigmar, not 3 pages in White Dwarf. 2, the Daughters of Kane got a battle tome less than a year ago. Because Broken Realms Morathi came out a year ago, and the Daughters got their book in March 2021. That book is 10 months old, and there's already a new character here that's going to need to go into that book. Which is very annoying.
I mean, in fairness, like, that's not as bad as, like, you know, the Custodian Codex, which was completely outdated within a week of it coming out.
I know, but it's still not bloody acceptable.
No, it's not acceptable.
If you're going to make me pay £30 a book, I've not played with the Daughters of Kane 2nd edition book because of pandemic and everything else and being so busy with teaching.
Totally understand.
I've not played with the bloody book.
That's totally understandable, but, like, as I like, needing to update after a year is still not as egregious as some of the other things that GW done recently. Like, do you remember when the Space Wolf Codex came out and it was outdated the day of release?
Oh, I know. GW's practices of write the book, then put a digital update out is not good enough.
No, it's not. I mean, like, if they have to, like, delay the book by, like, you know, a week, a day or a week or a month or whatever, just to make sure everything's updated, just do that. Everyone will be happier.
But they do the print run like 6 months in advance. The Stormcast book came out wrong because they nerfed the dragons before the dragons even released. So the way they work their printing to be months ahead of time and then passing digital patches doesn't work. I mean, it's not as egregious as the Lumineth or the Custodes or the Space Wolves or whatever, but it's still bad, and it's not good enough. And 3, we just got elves in the Ideneth box. Fury of the Deep came out last week with Ideneth in it.
Yeah.
Now, Nighthaunt is an old book. It's the oldest book left after Idoneth will get redone and so will Nighthaunt. So they're the oldest books that needed redoing to get redone. Fine, it's the right decision to put Nighthaunt in there. But Daughters don't need an update, don't need any new models, just got a book and are standing in for an army that needs all of those things. Like the Cities of Sigmar, where you could really go down, Harkyon, by all means, throw a Daughters unit in there, throw Dark Riders in, and say, if you'd like, you can build these as Doomfire Warlocks to show Marathi Kane's influence on the city, or something. Or maybe have one Daughters model in there, or, like, for example, a Hag Queen, or a unit of Witch Elves, or something. Like, have a unit in there, sure, but let the city be what's relevant, rather than the Daughters. It's the wrong army to put in this box. It's just not what the game needs in terms of getting armies updated for AOS 3. Daughters of Kane came out 4 months before AOS 3. They should have been AOS 3 ready out of the gate to be fixed in White Dwarf with their Crusade, with their Path to Glory rules, like they did with Soulblight Gravelords. And this slot should be given to Cities of Sigmar, who have the White Dwarf update, which they really shouldn't have had because it's not enough, to get the new Battle Tome alongside the Nighthaunt. That's my problem. That was a very long and extended rant, but, you know.
No, it's totally deserved.
Also, it means I have to spend more money, and I don't have enough money to spend.
Fair enough.
So, yeah. There is a Warhammer Plus thing here in terms of there's a new noir thriller animation called Interrogator coming, but it was just a trailer. It was a title card. It was a title sequence, so it wasn't even a trailer. So nothing really to talk about there.
But we did get a sticker album.
We did. Games Workshop are working with Panini now.
Yeah, I think the whole concept of sticker albums seems to be more of a thing that's more familiar with UK audiences than it is possibly with those overseas. Because I'll be honest, I don't know how prevalent the concept of sticker albums is, like in American stuff. I mean, if you guys get them over there, then please let us know in the comments, obviously. It just seems so out of left field. I feel.
Agreed. It makes sense if you're trying to appeal to a younger audience, which GW is. This is a good way to go about it, theoretically, because it's been created with support from Warhammer Alliance. So, it's a good idea. I think it's a good thing to do. And it does come with hero cards to allow you to do trading and stuff. Oh, and a buildable box to store them in, and a poster as well. Right. Fair enough. I mean, the stickers look nice. I don't think there's any new artwork, but they look nice.
Probably ain't.
No, I don't think so either. No, that Curious artwork is ancient. But, yeah, it's fine. It's not something I'm going to do. But, you know, it's there.
Oh, bloody hell. They've actually updated the Black Library Coming Soon page again.
Oh, have they? What's there?
Well, aside from stuff that was being released in January, like Gitslayer and Kragnos in February, they've got a whole bunch of releases lined up for March.
Go on.
So, for Age of Sigmar, we've got the Hallowed Ground novel, which is the Witch Hunters novel.
Yep.
We've got one called Dynasty of Monsters. A Gurish free city is obsessed with purity and aroma savagery, now facing annihilation at the hands of a beast herd. The councillor so-and-so requests the aid of the Mother of Nightmares, who is like a vampire.
Oh yeah, that's the... Oh, I forgot what's the name. It's the named character version of the Vengorian Lord, you know, the half monster, half vampire thingy.
Laukavai,
thank you.
Yeah. So it's like, so I don't think that book was actually released previously, or teased previously, was it?
Nope, that's a new one, at least as far as I'm aware, that's a new one.
So for 40k in March, we have the Araman Eternal Mega Edition.
Yes, please.
The Special Edition for Ravener Rogue.
Fine.
The Standard Issue release of the Ghazghkull Thraka novel.
At last.
as well as the Catachan Devil novel.
Makes sense.
A paperback release of Dark Imperium 2nd edition. Yes, I know. Kingmaker, the Assassinorum novel. And the paperback edition of Serpent and the Saint. And for Horus Heresy, we've got the next series of the print-on-demand books, which this next one includes Master of Mankind, Garrow, Shattered Legions, Crimson King, and Talon.
There's some juicy lore and a bit of a waste of time in there, isn't there?
Which one's the waste of time?
I don't know. I feel like Master of Mankind's really juicy. Garrow. I want to say Talon because it's a backwater. Well, by the Horus Heresy's standards of what's important to the campaign, it's a bit of a backwater campaign that just shows the Iron Warriors being crap.
In fairness, the whole Talon thing, they kind of had to make a story about Talon, considering all of Talon's lore prior to Horus Heresy books coming out. It's like, hey, Talon used to be a green and verdant world, and then the Iron Warriors virus bombed it during the Horus Heresy. So it's like, okay, we have to do something with it.
Yeah.
Because it's already been established. But, if I wouldn't necessarily say it shows the Iron Warriors being crap. I would go on the other end and say it shows the Imperial Army being badasses.
True. You can spin it either way.
Because let's be honest, how many stories do you get with the Imperial Army probably taking it to a Space Marine Legion? And plus, the Talon are just badass in general.
This is true.
And that's basically it for the Black Library updates for now.
Still, there's some new stuff there, which is good.
Yeah. Speaking of new stuff, one thing they did tease, because like last episode we were going on all about Tau special rules and all that, they revealed that you'll be able to field an entire army of Kroot.
Kroot Shapers at HQ. At last!
Took them long enough.
Indeed. So the Kroot Shaper is now a HQ, and interestingly, you are able to really pack up on Kroot without compromising your detachment. So one problem that you might theoretically have as a Tau player is Krootoks often sit in your elite slot, and Kroot Hounds sit in your your fast attack slot, and Kroot Shapers now sit in your very, very precious HQ slot. Because Commanders, Ethereals, Fireblaze are all very good at what they do. So what they've said is if you take a Kroot unit in a Battleforged detachment, you get one Krootox, one Kroot Hound, and one Kroot Shaper unit without taking up another slot. Which means that you can have a Kroot core and still have your Tau army function without having to take anything out of your Tau in order to fulfill your battlefield detachment things, which is nice. Sorry, I've got really bad hiccups.
It's alright, I've got the bad coughs.
But one thing they've also done is that all Kroot are now able to make a scout move. That's pretty good. In terms of, shielding your Tau units with Kroot and the like. They've upgraded the Kroot rifle to actually have some armor piercing in melee. That's nice. And Kroot Shapers give them a buff when it comes to trying to charge. They can reroll 1 dice when charging.
Mm.
Oh, and give themselves feel no pain by eating someone.
Damn.
They have to kill a unit, but if they kill a unit with a Kroot model, then that unit gets feel no pain 5+.
Basically, at this rate, Tau are looking to be an incredibly powerful army.
I mean, the one that came out this week that really caught a lot of people's attention wasn't the Kroot, although the Kroot is really cool. It was the Devilfish.
Oh yeah.
Because Devilfishes can make a scout move if you have Mont Ka, or have outflank if you play Cao Yon. That's a start point. Also, you can disembark after moving with up to 3 Devilfish units.
Fucking hell.
Which is absolutely conkers badonkers in terms of Fish of Fury, whiz up, disembark, blast. In the first turn, you can go 9-inch move, activate combat debarkation at the start of the movement phase, make I think it's a 10-inch move, so that's 19 inches, then disembark, and you're on turn 1 Montcar, where you are really encouraged to get within, I think, 18 inches of the enemy in order to get better AP. And you can activate that ability then to get your ability to disembark and blast immediately with your fire warriors. And do we also mention the ability for onboard sensors, a further stratagem to give all units within 6 inches of a devilfish reroll ones to hit against a selected unit? And add to that a further ability they gave the Tau. I believe it's in their stratagems article, where it says, and I quote, up to 2 sept units within 18 inches of each other can target an enemy unit with an extra -1 AP. And GW mentions this as a well-known combo of combined Montcar, this, and the AP benefits from everything else of Montcar and this, plus the benefits to AP they've given pulse weapons anyway, because pulse rifles now have AP -1, thank God. It is very easy, in combination with a Fireblade, maybe, I don't know if the Fireblade will quite interact the right way, to have double or triple tapping pulse rifles at -2 or 3 AP from point blank range, re-rolling ones to hit without marker lights. Oof.
Yeah.
I'm not bloody complaining, by the way. This is hilarious, and it will not work because it will only allow you to kill 1 unit. And as we discussed with Anchor's last episode, who knows 40k much better than I do as a tactical game, being able to kill something is not a challenge in 9th edition compared to how you move and how you set up. The scout move of the Devilfish and the ability for combat debarkation to allow you to quickly clear an objective to score your secondaries, that will be more useful than just, oh my god, Fish of Fury rush, disembark, blast you into next week. Still good though. Still hilarious, and I'm definitely doing it.
Speaking of hilarious, did you see the Direwolf?
No.
The new heavy scout titan based on the Warhound.
Oh, that! Sorry, when you said Direwolf, I thought of bloody vampire counts again. Sorry, yes, I did see the Warhound, yes.
It's absolutely adorable.
Yeah, so it's basically a Warhound Scout Titan crossed with the Warbringer, the Nemesis Warbringer, where they decided, hey, do you know how to make our super awesome Titan better? Put a ginormous whack-off stupid gun on its back.
No, I'll tell you what it is. We actually got an answer to a long-standing question. What this is, it's an uncorrupted Slaneshi subjugator.
Arguably, this is definitely possible, yes.
Because the Slaneshi subjugator was also a heavy scout titan, with 2 limbs on either side and a big gun on top. I'm going to die on that hill because, let's be honest, it is a subjugator.
Yeah, it's a good hill to die on. So, yeah, the weapon options it comes with are either its carapace weapons being either a neutron laser or a volcano cannon. You know that shadow sword gun designed specifically to kill titans? The one that in the Space Marine game is fired by a Warhound to blow up the building, because that's a volcano cannon if I'm right.
I think so, yeah.
Like, that gun running around on the back of a Warhound. Friggin' oof.
Which also has 2 mega bolters.
Oh yeah, and mega bolters just for good measure.
Now, I have to wonder, like, whose idea was to put such a big gun on a scout titan?
It's the Adeptus Mechanicus and the Dark Mechanicum.
Absolute mad lads.
I mean, these were the days when the Mechanicum was inventing Vorax. So, you know.
I mean, why stop with a gun on the back? Why not stick a gun in place of the face? Have a brief fire while we're at it as well.
I mean, probably the Legio Audax ones that were corrupted probably do breathe fire.
Yeah, but they're corrupted. That don't count.
True. Yeah, that is interesting. Like, why have they never done more like muzzle weapons on Titans? Like, wouldn't it be really cool to have them more where like the crew obviously sit in the eye cockpit and stuff like that, and the Sensorium, and then just the more of it has like a gun, like either a sonic weapon or for disruption or something like that. Why don't they use that as a weapon slot?
Or just a big las cannon or something, you know?
Yeah, because I mean, they already have horns that are designed to be absolutely deafening to communicate and challenge. Like, just lean all in. Have fire-breathing titans to make them truly look like gods of war, which they already are, but, you know, go all in on it.
Or, like, replace them like, you know, like magna melters or something. So get run up close, blang.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to try and core a Warlord Titan's head off, then using a melter in your gob as a Warhound is probably your best bet. Get underneath its head, get in close, look up, blast. Yes, you're going to get crushed in the immediate impact, and that's probably why they don't do it, but meh. It's funny.
I mean, there are crazier strategies. I mean, do you remember that instance with that Auto Sinister Titan who basically told all the other Titans, right, all of you who are armed with Vortex missiles, shoot them at me. I got a plan. They shoot a Vortex missile, it absorbs all the warp energy from the Vortex missile and unleashes it as a huge cannon blast. It's like, that's insane.
Effective, but insane.
It's like, it's one of those things like, you can only do it once before fucking up and dying.
Yeah, it only has to go wrong once.
Yeah. Anything else worthy of saying? I mean, we did get the reveal of Vigis Salome, but I don't know if we talked about it last time or not.
There's not a lot to say, to be honest. Like, we talked about the Army of Faith, but yeah, there doesn't seem to be a huge amount that needs to be added because most of it's designed for comp anyway, which neither of us really are qualified to talk about, let's be honest here.
Yeah.
There were a bunch of points changes for 40k and chapter approved. They changed a bunch of things, including a lot of Necron units, but not really in position to comment because I don't play.
Yeah, they also changed like a crap ton of custodian unit points values a week after the codex was released.
I know.
They did have some new data sheets for like the new Primaris Gravis Captain and that, and I've seen a few people complain that you're just making shit overly complex now. Stop it.
Oh, the irony.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with this edition, we kind of gone a bit backwards. Just like 7th edition became ridiculously overcomplicated. 8th edition simplified it. 9th edition is making it overly complicated again.
I think 8th was overly simplified. I think with 8th, they overcorrected from 7th and are trying to add the complexity back in, and it's just knowing where the line is.
All you got to do is just go back to 4th edition rules. There you go, you're sorted.
5th.
That was the perfect balance.
5th was better. And I'm not saying that because I started in 5th, but yeah.
Debatable. I would stick to 4th personally, but
that's fair. Oh, I did find something that we missed, by the way.
Oh?
New terrain.
Oh?
Battlezone Fronteris.
Battlezone Fronteris.
So this is a series of essentially frontier world terrain designed
Didn't we discuss this last episode?
No, it was only revealed on the 17th, so we couldn't have done.
Oh, okay.
But yes, it's got bunkers, it's got communication, all-specs arrays, a few things like that, which I think is just... It's interesting because AOS has done exactly the same thing with its Dawnbringer Crusade terrain to represent these quickly built city defences, and this is 40k's answer to that. Like these quickly built bunkers, walls, communications arrays designed for worlds out on the frontier.
Right, okay.
And they're alright. Well, I stopped yawning. There's nothing particularly special, if I'm completely honest, but they fit in with the rest of the Imperial terrain, that's for sure.
Inoffensive, I think the term is.
Yeah, very much inoffensive. They look nice. They'll be good alongside a box of some kind or in a box of some kind. People wouldn't complain if they were there in, say, the Necromunda Kill Team box when it comes out. Like there was the Orky stuff in the Octarius box. I wouldn't be surprised to see this in the Necromunda box. And I don't think anybody would complain apart from the people who want the Eldar terrain because, there's Corsairs in there.
True. That's pretty much it for the news, isn't it?
On the news front, yeah, it's taken us nearly an hour, but we have got through everything in terms of the news, yes.
Hooray!
Apologies that the news segments take so long, but when it's preview week, you kind of have to talk about it all, and I think we went on a Malgan Ra rant, I went on a Daughters of Kane rant.
I went on a Gunter rant.
Yeah, you went on an entirely independent rant of both of those things. But no, so yes, we are through all of that. We've covered pretty much everything that there is to cover. Yeah, news done.
Hey.
So, yeah.
Right. So I've nearly finished the first Twice Dead King book. I've literally only got 20 pages left. So I can talk about most of it. And what I don't talk about today, I'll talk about next episode, because what I also plan on doing before next episode is, in addition to completely finishing off this book, is to also read the bonus short story that was contained within it, because I got the special edition, which is about Methys the Martyr. Sure, that could be interesting as well.
I have no idea who that is.
Neither do I, which is, I assume the story will reveal that.
Yes, I'd hope
I bloody well hope so.
Yeah, that would help.
But yeah, the book's been out for a while. The sequel's already out, so no spoiler warning if it was needed, because, again, the sequel's already out, so... Yeah,
let's roll.
Right, so last time we got to we got a bigger threat coming. Turns out we were right in suspecting that it was the Imperium. It turns out it's a absolutely fuck-off huge Imperial crusade. One that's so big that the orcs that the Necrons were fighting, the reason why the orcs were invading the Necron world is because they were fleeing from the Imperial crusade. That's how big it is.
Lies and slander. Orcs do not run away from an Imperial crusade. They all die in it and then respawn later. That is not how orcs work.
Well, this Imperial crusade was just going around just hey, there's a planet, nuke it. There's a planet, nuke it. Fuck going on the ground, nuke, nuke, nuke. And the orcs probably think, oh, I'm not going to fight. Fuck it, let's go somewhere else. But yeah.
More acceptable.
Yeah. So, while Oltix's garrison is basically left to defend his little backwater outskirt world, he decides to go to the crown world of the dynasty and basically request aid because, hey, we kind of need to, mount a defense, otherwise the entire dynasty is going to be, kind of fucked. So he goes to the crown world and he meets up with his brother, who was partially responsible in seeing him exiled in the first place. He was responsible for cutting off the dynasty symbol off his chest. So Oltix is still very bitter about that.
As you would be.
As you
Symbolism.
would. Yes. And Oltix's brother, Joceris, he's basically just sitting in his little palace in the middle of the desert, and he's literally going around polishing every individual Necron Immortal in his army. Just literally going around polishing them by hand. Out of boredom more than anything else.
Oh dear.
And they have a conversation you do realise once you're done with that one, you're going to have to go and clean the first one again because of all the sand and dust. It's yeah, probably. Why are you here? You're exiled. It's yeah, didn't you read my reports where I've been sent back to the Crown World? I did, actually. Oh. So, where are my reinforcements?
They're not coming.
Pretty much. It's well, can I speak to Dad? Their dad being, the dynast of the Crown World, the ruler of the dynasty.
The Pharaoh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's oh, I suppose so. I'll prepare a transport for you. I'll give you the correct code so you can actually enter the city without being killed on sight. So Oltex goes through the transporter. It's like a little dolmen gate or something to that effect. Mm-hmm. Ends up in the capital, and the capital is completely in a state of disrepair.
Oh dear.
Even to the point of, like, there are life forms in the capital, like giant insects, like actual native Necrontier insects, and one of the subminds in Oltex's mind saying, "Do you know why this is significant? Not really. It's biological life on a Necron tomb world, on a crown world. What does that tell you?" It's like, shit, everything's gone to fuck, hasn't it? Essentially.
Yeah, that's what happens when the Necrons are asleep or gone, not while they're active.
Basically, like, the containment and cleanliness protocols have basically stopped. So he's making his way through the city, and he sees a transport ship flying overhead. And he looks at it, it's like, that's a really old transport ship. Like, it's not like the ones normal Necrons use, where, like, you know, all the Necrons are, like, stored and compacted, like, you know, like those drop ships in the Phantom Menace, you know, where all the droids are packed like that. It's nothing like that. It's one of the old Necron tier drop ships. Like, it has things like, you know, beds and plumbing in it. And it's like, what the hell are they transporting on one of those old ships? And one of the other submarines speaks out and goes, "I know what they're transporting. I know what's in that ship. What's in it? Shit." It's like, what do you mean shit? It's like, well, shit is not what they're transporting specifically. It's a byproduct of what they're transporting. What do you mean? They're transporting living beings. Like organics. Mm-hmm. So Old Dixon makes his way deeper into the city, but like past all the tombs or the past rules and all that. Mm-hmm. And he comes across a jungle. Like, plants have actually started taking over the entire city.
Which is normally you think, okay, that's a little bit weird, but in the case of Necrons, it's super weird.
It is super weird, yeah. But as he's making his way towards like the palace, his father's palace, he can hear this chanting and stomping, and it's like, what the fuck is going on?
Please don't tell me it's Vulcan live stomp stomp. Sorry,
it's not Vulcan live stomp stomp.
I know. I just had to make the joke.
It's more a case of feed me Seymour stomp stomp. Because he knows, because as he like gets closer and closer, he sees a Seraptech construct, you know, the big Forge World Necron Titan thing, basically like stomping around. It's got like a huge trophy rack on its back where there's a bunch of corpses impaled upon it, and there's a whole bunch of Necrons following it, like like worshipping it. It's like, yeah, they're all inflected with the Flayer curse.
Yep, my brain finally caught up. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Ultex ends up beating the shit out of one flayed one, because, like, well, one who's infected with the flare curse, he was not a full flayed one yet, he's only infected, like, driven to madness, like, I must eat meat. No, it hasn't mutated yet. Mm-hmm. But he beats the shit out of that one, like, basically destroys it. It's like, right, yeah, I kind of need to get to where, I need to get to my dad's throne room and find out what the fuck's happening. What the fuck is touching my leg? He turns down, and there is an actual flayed one, like, running a hand down his leg and just looking up and was like, hello. and Ultix looks up, and, like, there's an entire huge pack of flayed ones. And Ultix like, fuck. Right, okay, I'm not gonna survive, but I'm gonna take as many of you down as I can. The flayed ones charge. They all just run past him, because they're all going for all the meat that's been dropped by a Seraptech. And it's like, that was lucky. Phew.
Checks out.
So he goes into the palace. He unlocks like this big door, even though the submariner was telling him, don't unlock that. There's something dangerous came out. Don't unlock it. What? Too late. Oh, fucking hell. Pardon me.
It's alright.
And there's a figure on the throne, like, it's completely black in coloration. And it turns out the reason why it's black in coloration is because of all the flies all over it.
Because it's covered in rotting flesh, I assume.
Kind of, but not quite. The thing moves and says, like, who dares approach my throne, kind of thing. Or, like, approach you, you've been granted the honour of an audience with your king, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Zoltix's father, he's actually succumbed to the Flayer curse as well, but he's not a flayed one. And it turns out that on his face is a mask made of flesh, but it's not any flesh. It's Necrontyr flesh, like mummified Necrontyr flesh.
Oh, that's just gross.
And it's not just any mummified Necrontyr flesh on the dynast's face.
Oh, no.
It's the face of the founder of the dynasty.
Oh, that's... No. Oh, that's gross.
And Oltix is, like, super offended by this. It's like a huge blasphemy because, like...
As you would be.
The tomb of the founder is, like, beneath the palace, and those who are tasked with taking care of the founder's tomb, before the biotransference, they were ritualistically blinded, and even after the biotransference, like, Necrons tasked with guarding it had their oculars removed. Because it was forbidden to lay a gaze upon the face of the founder.
And this guy's just carting it around, wearing it on his face like some mad lunatic.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
And he's like, okay, so...
violence.
It's like, right, so, my father's gone insane. We're clearly not going to get any help in regards to the Imperium. So I'm just gonna have to kill you and take over. He basically leaps into the air to try to attack him, gets suspended in midair by an arrestor field, basically just, like, caught in midair.
Mm-hmm.
And he ends up getting, like, blinded and beaten by the Lich Guard. And not just that, but it turns out the reason why the king was put into subjected to the Flayer curse is due to a, quote, would-be cryptech. Basically, in life, he was like a member of the merchant class who somehow managed to gain the trust and influence of the royal court. Mm-hmm. Who's someone who that Oltex and Joseris never liked, because he was, like, effectively a con man.
Yeah. How the hell you managed to spin your way into, look at all these upgrades you can have, jokes on you, it's the Flayer virus.
So, like, Oltex is then basically, like, carried away, taken to the would-be Cryptex lab. He has pretty much all of his upgrades surgically removed, like all his submines removed, like all his actuators, all his all his powers stripped from his body. So basically, he's now reduced into the body of what is effectively just a basic Necron.
Yep.
And he's like rendered blind. He can barely do anything. He knows he's in a prison. He can hear the cries of, like, orcs and humans, and there's one Tau and an Ogren. These are all basically, like, beings who are going to be effectively fed up to the Flayers.
Yep.
And Oltex basically, like, lapses in and out of consciousness. He thinks he's going to, like, succumb to, like, something called the Diasporec, which is basically, like, an incarnation of death, like mind death, essentially. It's like a psychological. It's well hard to describe. It makes more sense when you read the book. But he's basically left in a cell for an entire month while his systems slowly repair. And
his home system gets quickly blasted into a ruin, I would assume.
Say that again, sorry? No, not quite yet. Not quite. He basically wakes up. He takes takes a look at his surroundings, and he notices, like, this prison seems very ornate. There's a lot of very ornate carvings. Why is there so much decoration?
Impromptu prison made out of some form of regal chamber for the biologicals?
It's not so much an impromptu prison. It's more like the would-be cryptid decided to desecrate the founder's tomb even further and turn it into a jail.
Oh, you're so dead. You're so dead. They're going to feed him to the remnants of the Flayer for that. Not that the Flayer is there, but you know what I mean.
And as he's undergoing his repairs, a very ornate scarab comes up to him and starts talking to him. It turns out this scarab has one of the submines implanted into it. Like one of his submines. So it's like, oh right, yeah, we've got a plan to help you escape, and we can repair you, and we can like try and upgrade you as much as we can without actually needing additional parts. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to stick with you because the would-be cryptic, he's planning on executing you now shortly by basically subjecting you to like a gladiatorial arena where you're forced to fight until you lose.
Yeah, Necrons don't get tired, but without any upgrades, you do eventually go down to something.
Mm. So he's first forced to face up against basically what is effectively a giant Necron spider. Not a Necron construct spider, an actual organic Necron spider.
So a Necron tier spider.
An organic one, like a living creature.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, if it's... like they obviously got the idea for the Canoptek spiders from somewhere. Mm. So, yeah.
Ultix manages to kill that by basically just crushing its skull between his hands.
Ow.
Yeah. Next up, he's got to fight a wave of basically Imperial Guard soldiers.
Cakewalk.
Yep, he kills them all one by one. Next up, he's fighting the Ogren, who basically sees all the dead guardsmen and goes into a blind rage because the Ogren absolutely loved his buddies. Like, the Ogren was described as basically crying upon seeing his dead comrades.
But anger and blind rage can be easily exploited and outmaneuvered if you've got any kind of strategic brain, which Ultix does.
It does, yeah. He quickly disposes of that. He ends up fighting against an orc war boss. Takes care of that.
That's a challenge.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, an Ogren's also a challenge, is fair, because basically an Ogren and an orc war boss are probably about the same size, essentially.
No, but an Ogren that is already dumb and is there not thinking because it's in a blind rage compared to an orc war boss that has been fed up on and is jacked and is a boss, so therefore has got a fair bit of cunning in him.
True. Then he's forced to fight against another type of spider, but this time it's a subterranean variant, so they cut all the lights out in the arena, so basically he's forced to fight it in the dark. But little does the would-be cryptech know is that Ultix can now see in the dark now, because basically systems are being slowly upgraded by the scarabs.
Yeah, I was wondering how he was going to get around that problem.
Mm-hmm. So basically he has to pretend to stumble about and accidentally get into the right position, I need to dodge this, but I'll dodge this attack by, quote, tripping over, kind of thing. Yeah, and the cryptechs are like, why the fuck won't you die? You
As
lucky
you would
bastard.
be at this point.
And basically, at this point, the cryptech's basically going on to a huge fucking rant. It's like, you need to die, blah, blah, blah. And at this point, Ultix has now been upgraded as much as he can. And what he does, he then leaps out of the gladiatorial pit to try and strike down the cryptech. The cryptech barely manages to avoid the strike, because he's like, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck.
Yep.
But as Ultix basically moves in to kill him, the cryptech basically gets summons a staff of light from subspace and uses it to temporarily put Ultix in a stasis field.
Yep.
And as the cryptech basically orders the Lich Guard to basically kill him, because okay, he's in stasis now, you can kill him quickly. Joceris walks in and basically says, I'm in charge, you're going to stop. The Immortals basically turns to face Joceris. Joceris ends up destroying them one by one with his badass sword skills.
As you do.
And then the would-be cryptech is pushed into the gladiatorial pit, and then the scarabs turn around and says, oh, he was so ashamed of his actions, he chose to find penance by sacrificing himself, and he wanted to experience everything, so we turned on his pain receptors. And we opened up every single cage at once.
Good night, Betsy.
And then next we hear is literally just like him screaming as he's torn apart. Like a Necron screaming as he's torn apart.
As you do. Yep. Ow.
And Altos just starts like, God, imagine screaming when dying, you fucking disgrace.
I mean, you desecrated the tomb of the founder twice. You're already up in disgrace.
Now, as this is going on, there's the occasional, like, doom, like, things shaking and stuff like that. Because it turns out this is the moment where the Imperials basically started launching their assault upon the Crown World.
As you would, yep.
And that's as far as I've gotten.
But you said you've almost finished, so
I'm almost finished. I'm assuming Necrons win, lol.
What I'm more assuming is that probably, given that there is a sequel, I'm assuming that this will be the point where they're sort of setting up either Altix to become the king and then have to fight this crusade off, or Chiseres will do a lot in fighting it off and Altix will then eventually take over in the end, either by him dying at the hands of the Imperium or by backstab. I'm assuming that Necrons win lol comes in the next book.
Possibly. Or just Necrons win.
Necrons win would be nice.
Necrons win without the lol.
Yeah, that would be nice. Necrons winning is rare.
Do you know what's even rarer? Nids winning. That's why it was such much a shock where in Warzone Octarius, the Nid said like, oh yeah, the Nids won. What?
I mean, they were always going to win, let's be fair here.
I know, but it's rare that it's actually documented as Nids win lol.
Yeah, Nids winning is rarely documented, but there was no way in the Octarius scenario that Nids were ever going to lose. Like, they had infinite respawn, and,
in fact, so did the Orcs technically as well.
Yeah, but the Orcs' biomass being absorbed meant no more Orcs.
True.
So, they were in the long run, the Tyranids were always going to win that war.
But yeah, all in all, it's proven to be a really good book so far. I'll let you know how it ends next episode, along with the bonus short story, which I don't think too many of you actually have read, considering it's only in the special edition as far as I'm aware. So,
nice. Yeah, I mean, it sounds really interesting in terms of seeing different aspects of Necron society, seeing the effects of the Flayer virus firsthand from the viewpoint not of those corrupted, of those who know what it's supposed to be like. Also, can we just point out that the big bad is an idiot Cryptek again? This happens a lot.
A would-be Cryptek.
Oh, so they're not actually a Crypt. They've not actually got a Cryptek powers.
No, he's pretending to be a Cryptek. Like, I want to be a Cryptek. It's like, you're not good enough to be a Cryptek. You're a fucking merchant. You're a merchant who scammed the nobility and managed to weasel your way into the royal court by claiming to have miracle magic potions.
With you.
That's why I keep calling him a would-be Cryptek, because he's not a true Cryptek. He wants to be regarded as one, but everyone's like, you're not a Cryptek, you're just some fucking snake oil salesman. Probably very literally in this case.
Yeah, quite possibly. Speaking of 20 pages, that's about as many as I've read of the Wolf Time.
Any good so far?
Well, we've had 4 different viewpoints.
In 20 pages? Fucking hell.
Well, okay, that's a lie. We've had 3, but yeah.
Still a bit much in 20 pages. I mean, 2 viewpoints.
Okay, I'll be completely fair to Gav Thorpe here. I've not read exactly 20 pages.
I was going to say.
I've read 4... If I'm not counting the content, starting from the prologue, I've read 26.
Even so, 4 viewpoints changing that many pages seems a bit much. I mean, I think 2 would be a fair number. Like, if it's like 2 viewpoints in 20 odd pages, but 4 seems a bit much.
So, the way it's done is there's a sort of dream sequence to open where you're in the role of... It's hard to describe. In fact, I want to read the prologue because it's not very long. But I actually want to read it because it's quite interesting in terms of what it says. Well, actually, okay, it's the prologue to the prologue. It's in the Dramatis Personae. But the sky is glass clear beneath a rare summer sun, and the wind fills the long ship's red and white sails. You feel the vessel lifting over the high waves like a buck in spring leaping across a glade. There is power there, every timber and rope and nail bound together for common purpose. A tall man stands at the prow, but you cannot see his face. The crew are ready around you, but you do not look at them. Your eyes are fixed on the horizon and the green and white that marks a distant land. The sun has started to set, the sea is getting sharper with shrill wind, creaking masts, and I'm paraphrasing slightly to speed this up. And it goes on, you then go into a storm, so you've got a thunderstorm. The warrior before you now holds on to the dragon-headed stem post, now with an axe in his hand. Lightning crackles across the dark red heavens, briefly illuminating his face, his lips drawn back in a fierce grin to reveal canines that dig into his bottom lip, cheeks flowing with a braided greying beard. You hear the growls of the creatures around you. The crew are decked in furs, their faces hidden in shadow but for the glint of inhuman eyes and off-white fangs. You are not afraid, for you are one of them. Then it goes on a bit more about waves of water or blood, you can't even tell. There are wolves around you, eyes like amber. Heads thrown back, they howl as one. The Stormlord riding the prow howls with them, but still his face is hidden, a figure of black with bared fangs against the ruddy backdrop of the devouring seas. The red flow breaks, leaving nothing but a shore of sharp rocks. You are the wolf, leaping with the scent of your prey thick in your nostrils. The ship, the warrior, the crew have become the wolf with you. You are the beating heart, driving the hunter forward. From the ground erupts a creature that towers up to the thick clouds crowned with green lightning. Its flesh is jade, its eyes rubies blazing with fire. Clawed hands reach down, seizing you by the throat, drawing out your lifeblood, spilling it into the mud below. A fanged maw impossibly vast opens like a dark cave ringed with teeth like the oldest icicles. The dark swallows you.
Huh.
There's a lot to unpack in there.
Yeah.
Like, what it makes me think of is that's how a space wolf goes from a tribal warrior of Fenris to becoming almost either a space wolf or a wolfen, depending on how you phrase it, with the sea being the literal seas to the warp and the sea of stars, and things like that. I feel like it's a metaphor, like a long-form metaphor for space wolf initiation and becoming one of the pack and going out on campaign, but I'm not sure.
Something to think about in either case.
Agreed. And then smash cut to some random who's not even Fenrisian on a ship.
Hi, I'm Bob.
Well, close. Orad.
Borat.
Orad.
I was going to say Borat.
No. Orad, or Orad, if you want to put it that way, who is one of 4 members of the gunnery crew for a single gun on an Imperial ship, who is responsible for aiming it along the X-axis.
He makes sure the aim is very nice. Sorry.
Anyway, the prologue doesn't last long. It's just essentially they're on the ship. They've got an officer who is 14 Terran Standard years old. Yep.
Fucking hell.
And the prologue ends with the ship being rammed by an orc ship, and Orad being, well, we assume killed, though it actually isn't killed, as I see on the first page of Chapter 2, his name shows up again, by orc boarders. Then smash cut again to the start of Chapter 1, and we're now with an unnumbered son of the Space Wolves, as part of Fleet Primus, who are fighting against, or preparing to fight against Night Lords on a series of worlds that have fallen very quickly to the Night Lords and their Terror Storm, which is a literal storm that invokes nightmares and has caused many a world to surrender immediately because they're so bleeping scared of the Night Lords. Then smash cut again to a raptor of the Night Lords who is on the hunt. Also, Night Lords, basically, according to Gav Thorpe, Night Lord raptors work like demons, where they sense fear, chase it down, and prey upon it in a literal sense. Not a metaphorical one, a literal sense.
I mean, in fairness, like, some Night Raptors were basically described as being more bestial than Space Marine. Like the ones in the Night Lords trilogy is like, what was his name? Corypheus. He was basically like, he ended like walking on all fours and had limbs more akin to like a bird.
Yeah, well, this Night Raptor has a tongue that is able to poke out between his helmet grill in order to taste the air.
I mean, you can just chalk up to chaotic corruption, like.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But what's interesting is, again, I need to get the exact phrasing. While they're hunting down a certain prey, because Space Marines are boring, apparently. It's boring to fight Space Marines because they don't really feel fear. Their emotions are almost hollow. They're useless to feed on. But human fear, like commissars, if you can crack a commissar, they're perfect in terms of what they want.
Oh yeah.
But what's interesting is, I'm trying to exactly pick up the line, they're also cannibalistic.
Right.
In that, yeah, so they're part of the thing called the Dark Strike, and one of the raptors gets hit and is taken down by heavy weapons. And it says, Ektavar, which is the name of the Night Lord, felt the spirit of his companion dying like fingernails scratching at a door. He had been starved too long, and he swatted away this psychic pulse of fear. A couple of seconds later, this Night Lord, this other guy, Serious, realised he would die, scorned and alone. His own fear spiked, so Night Lords can still feel fear, apparently, and within seconds, the other Night Raptors fall upon him and rip him apart with their own chainswords and, I quote, suckling on his last despair.
Kinky.
So yeah, they literally feed on fear. Not metaphorically, literally.
I think you should show Disharmonia this. See how she reacts.
I might need to. I'll finish it first, I think. But it's definitely got some interesting takes. And the one thing that really annoys me, maybe because I'm reading on iBooks rather than in person, is there is no indication that the perspective is jumping. Like, in terms of paragraph, like the only way you know that there is paragraph structure is that most paragraphs don't have a line in between them, and there's a line in between when you jump perspective. There's no like star or dot or dash or anything to indicate, hey, this is a new thing. If you're just skim reading, you wouldn't even realize the perspective had changed. You'd be like, why is the Space Wolf jumping around in a jump pack? I missed that bit. So maybe that's just an iBooks thing.
Are the paragraphs like spaced like double spaced? Because sometimes like without the dotted line, sometimes they'll just like double space the paragraph or something instead.
Yeah, they have, but it's not eminently obvious at a quick glance if you're reading quickly. It's like paragraph,
okay.
paragraph, line, paragraph. There's no, it's not, you can tell if you know what you're looking for, you know the perspective has jumped, but you kind of have to be aware. But the one other thing that's quite cool with this first, and I'm still on only chapter 1, by the way. This is only all in chapter 1 in the prologue.
Jesus.
The Unnumbered Sun had saved the life of a Historitor during a drop at some point. So Gilliman had decided to put the Historitors on the front lines. And what the Historitor did was get him a book that was contemporary to the time of the first founding about the Space Wolves as a gift for this Unnumbered Sun.
What a lovely gesture.
Because, and I quote, Call gave us much during the long sleep. Facts and figures, verified stories, accounts and reports, but nothing, and then the Historitor puts the word in his mouth, spiritual. And so he'd asked the Historitor for something authentic to link back to the ancient Space Wolves. which is why when he launches his charge, he actually screams Volca Fenrica. That's his war cry, is Volca Fenrica, which is a neat touch.
Mm.
So yeah, like that's one chapter in a prologue. That's 26 pages. There's a lot going on. It's happening very quickly. But
there seems to be a trend for the I've forgotten the fucking series it's called now. Dawn of Fire. It seems to be a trend for the Dawn of Fire series.
Yeah, they have a lot to cover and they go very freaking quickly. Because, like, I assumed this book was going to be all about Logan Grimnar et al. And they are listed in the Dramatis Personae, though we are going to get to Fenris. But we don't start where I expected we'd start. I thought we'd start with the arrival of Fleet Primus at Fenris. And the Torchbearer fleet at Fenris. And have it be more of a political story with conflict as well to allow the Space Wolves to be shown what the Primaris can do. But no, we're starting with the Unnumbered Sons on a random thing. They have no idea if they're going to Fenris. They probably are, but they're just some random jobbos running around who happen to be in an Unnumbered Sons, and one of them happens to be from the Space Wolf line, and they're just fighting some Night Lords over a series of worlds because Gilliman's getting annoyed that it's taking too long, or something to that effect. So, yeah. Lot going on. Look forward to see where it goes next. But 26 pages and we learn a lot. And also have some really interesting discussions about how the Primaris do or don't connect to their parent legions. Like, there are some, like, what's his face? The guy who wanted to be an Ultramarine but had to join the Nova Marines instead and got proper pissy about it. There was a guy who wanted to be part of the Ultramarines but was sent to a successor instead and got proper pissy and never really integrated. But it's just interesting how the Primaris have tried to learn their own history as much as the chapters have had to accept them. We've never really seen it from the Primaris perspective before, and I look forward to seeing where it goes if that's what they decide to do.
Yeah.
That was a lot for 26 pages. Apologies. I banged on a lot there, but, you know, I found it interesting.
Fair enough. Shall we move on to some questions if we've got the time?
I think we certainly have the time.
Right. I do want to start with this one, which seems a little like as if that's ever going to happen. Any chance of having Henry Cavill on the podcast? If we could.
Yeah, would be great, but also exceptionally unlikely.
I mean, that being said, like, Narina did message him on Instagram, but yeah, that's all we can do.
Yeah, we can send a message requesting an audience, and if we get one, we get one. We do not have enough pulling power to make that happen.
Yet.
Let's be fair, the guy's like double A list. We don't have a chance.
I mean, we managed to get Markiplier.
Yeah, like Markiplier, but Markiplier is still in the YouTube sphere. At least he's a YouTuber. He's used to working with other people on YouTube by comparison to people who are like movie stars who are always doing one thing and another.
True, but remember, he did do a video of Jack Black, so...
This is a valid point.
Yeah. Right, have the Tau interacted with Gilliman yet?
If they have, we don't know about it. I mean, they've met Primaris Marines, but Gilliman... I don't think Gilliman went... No, Gilliman didn't go that way. Gilliman went north to Baal via Fenris and stuff, and then went back to Terra. Gilliman did go east, obviously, to Ultramar, but he went Baal, he went Ultramar, and then he went home. Back to Terra.
I was at home. When you said home, I thought you meant he went back to McCrag.
Well, he did go back to McCrag. He's back on Terra, as far as I understand, where he currently is.
Right. Because I thought he left Terra to lead the Indomitus Crusade, then went back to McCrag for the Plague Wars,
and then has gone back to Terra now the Plague Wars are over.
Has he?
I assume that once the Ultramar sector is in order, he needs to get back to ruling the Imperium, and the best place to do that is the Throne World.
Right.
That's my assumption anyway. I haven't got a confirmed source to say he's on Terra, but logic dictates, given that's where the Logisticarum will be, where the Administratum is, where the Munitorum is, where the High Lords are, it makes sense for him to be on Terra rather than Macragge in the long term.
Fair enough. How do you think they will react when they encounter him?
They'll probably go, oh, that's new. Right, how do we beat it?
Then the Tau will probably be like, are your leaders just bigger than everyone else?
Yeah, what are you, orcs? Yeah, I mean, it's the same as when they encounter things like knights for the first time. It's like, flip, we're all going to die now. Right, pick to record everything. How do we beat this? Adapt, overcome. Same as everything they do.
Do you know of any good books or short stories with descriptions of the daily life of Gay Vesa or just civilian Tau?
Nope. And it's so annoying. The closest we get is, to my knowledge, is Crisis of Faith, because that spends some time on Delith before the Farsight expedition begins. So you get to spend a bit of time with Pomalchior before his corruption. You get to spend a little bit of time with Farsight between the Damocles Gulf... No, not Damocles Gulf. The first Damocles Gulf Crusade and the launch of the Farsight expedition. You get a little bit of downtime with Farsight, but you don't see much in Old Truth. And what you see with Pomalchior is probably more civilian in nature, because Farsight's a military hero at the end of the day.
See, I was going to point out that Greater Evil short story, because like the main character of that is a Gay Vesa officer.
I haven't actually read that. That's probably why. Yeah,
that's the one that's got like the Tau Gene Stealer cult in it.
Oh, that one. It's that one. Yeah. I haven't read it, annoyingly. I might have to try and get round to it and do a little bit of digging before too long if I get a chance.
Yeah, it's the one that ends with the reveal of like a Tau Gene Stealer hybrid, and you got the Tau going like, oh, this is my son. He's only 3 days old, but he's the size of a 12-year-old. It's like, okay, that's creepy.
Just a bit.
Right. Have you been able to get around to looking at any of the Gotrek books? And do you plan on catching up with the AOS Gotrek books, since the next Gotrek book will see him coming into conflict with the Ideneth?
I have, on my phone, when I did my last round of book purchases, I bought Wolf Time, I bought, what did I buy? Twice Dead King, Wolf Time, Volpo and Glory, and Ghoulslayer. So I did buy Ghoulslayer. Gitslayer isn't out at the time of this purchase. So, yes, at some point, but it is a long way down my priority list. Like, I've got Wolf Time I want to read Volpo and Glory. I'm just catching up on some AOS 3 lore. And then I'll get to Ghoulslayer, probably. And then I'll have to do Gitslayer, and then I'll get to the Ideneth. So it's a long ways off, and a lot of stuff will come out in the interim. Like, I want the Kragnos book. The Laukavai book sounds interesting. So it's on the AOS side of things. There's plenty for me to read. And Gotrek being Gotrek is cool, but also didn't get into it during the fantasy days, so it's not very high on my priority list.
Fair enough. Right. Has there ever been an incident where a commissar attempted to execute an inquisitor for whatever reason?
I haven't heard of one. I don't know if you have, but I haven't.
I think in one of the Gorn's Ghost books, there was an instance where an inquisitor was revealed to be corrupted by chaos, and so he was executed. So I think, I could be wrong here, I couldn't tell you the book. But I think that's probably going to be the closest you'll ever see in that situation. Like if an Inquisitor just starts something a bit dodgy, I don't think the Commissar really has much authority to try and kill him. But like if an Inquisitor is like without doubt revealed to be like corrupted by chaos, like he's like got the Star of Chaos tattooed on his forehead and he's now gibbering in tongues. Yeah, shoot the fucker.
Yeah, at that point there's no room for wiggle.
Yeah, no doubt either.
No, definitely not. Because, yeah, if a commissar tries to shoot an Inquisitor for any reason other than it's so bloody obvious they're corrupted, well, the Inquisitor's got the better armour and the better gun.
Well, not always. Some Inquisitors tend to be a bit more, subtle when going around.
Normally those are the ones with the psychic powers.
Again, not always a guarantee, though.
No, this is true.
It will depend on a case-by-case situation.
True. But in the long term, I would expect that 99% of the time you don't try because you will lose as a commissar in that debate of, the Inquisitor's corrupted, I need to execute him now. You'll never win that argument.
He's corrupted. He's also wearing Terminator armor. I'm fucked.
Also, he's going to say I'm corrupted. And he's an Inquisitor. He outranks me. Everyone will believe him and I will not get a chance to fire my gun. This is just not worth trying.
Right. Let's go for another one. What would the Ethereal Council do if Aun-Shi joined the Farsight Enclaves? Well, that would firstly... that would depend on whether or not he can actually escape from Gamora, first of all.
Which he can't.
It'd be like Escape from New York, except, with like... what was it that the Drukhari kept calling him in the arena? Little Blue Man, wasn't it? No, Blue so. Fighting Man, that's it.
That sounds right.
He's like, yay, it's Blue Fighting Man, he's my favourite.
Dear. But yeah, like, if Aun-Shi defected, then immediate removal of his name from all history, possibly firebomb Viola just to make sure. Basically the same thing has happened to Farsight. Wipe from all memory. If the name is still going around, then remove people until it doesn't. Or make it all hush-hush as a whispered legend again. Because they haven't got the ability to acknowledge the Farsight Enclaves exist and accept it without acknowledging that there's a way to live without ethereals. Or they turn it into a propaganda mission of, look how Aun-Shi is going to rescue the traitor from the fold and bring him back into the fold. Actually, he's defected, but we don't say that part.
He's just taking a sweet time in doing so.
Yes, it's a slow burn. It's a really slow burn. Aun-Shi, I know he's got his years on the clock, but he's just got to win Farsight round. It'll happen eventually.
I'm only 2 days from retirement, and now I'm gonna die. Mendoza, or something. I don't know. He was already retired, wasn't he? And then they brought him back in.
He was on his way out. Yeah, I think he was either fully Commissar Yarrick or very similar to the Commissar Yarrick story. We talked about that before.
Yeah, because that instant where he defended that village from orcs, that was his day before retirement.
Oh, it was his last tour, definitely.
Yeah, his last tour kind of thing.
It might have even just been ceremonial, like just on tour rather than on military tour.
It's like, I'm just saying goodbye to everyone. What's that? Greenskins? Oh, for fuck's sake.
Accurate.
Like, grumpy old Tau too angry to die.
Yep, basically.
Right. Is it possible that Jagatai Khan was captured by the Drukhari on Shagoras instead of the official story stating that he chased them into the webway?
Then how did he get out again, and how has this not come up?
I think they mean, like, that instance, during the scouring, when Jagatai disappeared, like, instead of him just chasing the Drukhari into the webway, he was instead captured by a Drukhari raiding party.
Oh, right, yes, sorry, misunderstood the question. Sorry, I'm thinking of bloody Angron, who was attacked and killed all the Drukhari. Sorry, I'm being an idiot. Possible. No idea how they would have subdued a Primarch, but certainly not outside the realms of possibility. I mean, both stories could be true. Chased them into the webway, Hunter became the hunted, ambush captor. Thanks for coming. Both stories could be true.
There's also the fact that, as far as official stories go, there's actually two official stories. Like, the first official story is Jagatai Khan chased them into the webway closed, and the White Scouts were like, well, fuck, Dad's not coming home. But the second official story is that Jagatai Khan's ship, along with a good chunk of the first company, was lost in the warp. That's the other official story, and one that doesn't get talked about as much. Because this short story was actually... This official story was actually mentioned in the White Scars Index of Astartes article. And it says, like, a lot of Imperial Scholars think this was actually more likely because the White Scars are notoriously shit when it comes to record keeping. So they think they just made up the story about Jagatai chasing the Drukhari into the webway to basically kind of save face kind of thing.
I mean, if there's one thing the White Scars weren't, it was dishonest. Like, at least you trust on people like Jagatai to be bluntly honest with their opinion.
Mm.
But certainly, Lost in the Warp is a valid and reasonable theory to suggest, because it makes sense.
Mm. Right. What would Magnus's life be like if he had a twin brother similar to Tyrion and Teclis?
Annoying.
Also,
he does. It's called Lehman.
Well, he's not a twin, though, is he?
No, but super fighty, super magic-y brother do sort of get along, but not really.
I think they mean twin in regards to, like, the whole, like, Alpharius Omegon thing. They're twins, everyone else is just brother.
Yeah. But in that case, if Magnus is the Teclis of this scenario, then Magnus's magical psychic abilities are exceptional, but he's physically useless. Like, until he attained godhood, Teclis couldn't swing a sword for toffee. He had one attack that was damage D3. Like, even now, Teclis in a fight is not that good. For a god, anyway. He's not that good in melee.
I just realised as well, like, what makes Magnus and Teclis similar? They're both colossal fuck-ups.
They have both colossally fucked up.
Yeah, same thing.
No.
It's like, you ruined the Werebrain project. You caused the end of the world.
You caused the end of the Imperium and you knew it. Yeah, well, I didn't turn my brother into an angry... You turned your brother into a furry. No, that's not true, but you know what I mean. Joking.
Well, they turned me into a newt. A newt? I got better.
Yeah, there's many jokes and comebacks you could have of the argument of who fucked up's got more fucked over between Magnus and Teclis.
Let's just say for the sake of argument, they're both colossal fuck-ups.
Yeah, and you can just imagine the whole my dad versus your dad argument. My dad's the leader of all humanity who was cursed to sit on a chair forever. My dad cursed the entire elven race by taking up the Widowmaker, and I still bear his curse to this day, which makes me a puny weedling. Yeah, but at least your dad's dead. So's yours! He's a skeleton on a chair! And someone.
My model's stuck in a perpetual T-pose.
But it doesn't have nipple horns.
No, it has a weird human-faced flying cat thing.
I mean, at least it makes sense to have feathery wings on that thing.
Mm.
Also, it's a sphinx. Come on, it's a sphinx.
Yeah,
Magnus would understand that.
Yeah, the word escaped me for a brief moment.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's like when people say, like, you know, oh, what's the word for a water zoo? Oh, aquarium. Okay.
Yeah, we all have those moments. It's fair enough.
Yes. Right. With most of the exhibits in Trajan's collection being organic in nature, could he be collecting possible genetic banks for the Silent King's attempt at undoing the biotransference, considering the collection has things like Krog, Nids, Custodes, and the perfect clone of a Primarch?
Yeah, also, actually, that just reminded me. There was an image, I don't know where it's from, whether it's from Hammer and Bolter or something, that kind of confirms Creed is in Trajan's collection. Did you see it?
I did, yeah, but the thing is, like, Creed was confirmed as being in his collection in the 9th edition Codex.
Oh, fair enough.
And the thing is, the image, it goes against what's said in the Codex, because the Codex said, like, oh yeah, Creed, he's kept in the prismatic galleries, which are basically huge dioramas, and Creed's kept in the last stand of Ursarkar Creed.
Yeah, he has his own exhibit.
Yeah, like, basically depicting his last stand, but, like, in the screenshot, now he's just standing there holding a cigar on his own. Not a last stand. But like in the Codex, it's described explicitly as being his last stand. So you imagine it being more of like an action-packed scene. albeit like frozen in time.
I mean, it's Creed, so who the heck knows?
Yeah.
But yes, as to your actual question, good theory, but I don't think Trazeen is that selfless.
Yeah, I think Trazeen's just like, oh, you want these, Jarek? What are you going to give me for them?
Yeah, also, Trazeen's body hopping trick won't really work if he doesn't have any mechanical things to possess with his little party trick. I think Trazeen wants to stay metal. Or gets more benefit out of staying metal anyway.
He's a huge heavy metal fan.
And now we're back to Malcolm Ra.
No, Malcolm Ra is just the edgy boy.
I thought that was Kurz.
Nah, Kurz is the super edgy boy.
Fair.
And Korax is the depressed edgy boy.
And so on and so forth, yeah.
Yes. Edgy boys make some noise, edgy boys song, blah blah blah, I don't know. Whatever the words of the song is. Anyway. What's the difference between a ghost weapon and a railgun?
Railgun, magnetic induction to fire a solid projectile. Gauss weapon, need to remind myself exactly what the law definition says.
They basically work by flaying things at a molecular level. So basically every time like a blast of Gauss energy hits something, it basically strips a layer off something.
Yeah, the thing is, there is a real thing called a Gauss weapon. A Gauss rifle actually exists in real life. It's the coil gun, which allows you to fire ferromagnetic or conducting projectiles using coils of electromagnets to create a motor. So rail weapons and coil guns, which is real life Gauss weapons, are not the same as railguns and Gauss weapons in 40k.
No.
The Gauss weapons in 40k are energy weapons that fire energy blasts using lightning-like energy that break you apart molecule by molecule by breaking atomic bonds and so on and so on and so on. Actual Gauss weapons IRL, coil guns, use magnets to provide, like I say, magnetic shells, whereas railguns fire along a rail rather than down a coiled barrel. So it's just a difference in exactly the mechanism of it's magnetic to fire a magnetically induced thing, but how you do it versus whether it's a coil versus a rail is just the only difference.
Basically, fucking magnets, how do they work?
Fleming's left-hand rule. That's how.
And given the time, I think we'll leave it at that for questions today.
That's fair enough. Right. Unless there's anything that either of us have forgotten because we're massive spanners, I think that brings us to the end of episode 140 of Adeptus Podcastus. A deep dive into all things LVO, a very deep dive into all things Necron, and a frantic dash through a few things Space Wolf and Night Lordy, as well as a few questions as well. We do hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that little old bell. I'm slightly exaggerating, but you've got to do the subscribe promo once in your life. But we do hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions for us, do leave us a comment with the word question so that we can answer it if possible in the next episode. We will endeavour to have a guest on that show where we did try and get one this time, but we're just sort of ironing out some details. So we'll let you know in due course if we are able to get a guest or if we need to invite you to ask any particular questions. But that is all for the future. Right now and here in this moment, this has been Tactica Imperialis.
And this has been Remleiz from 40k Theories, and I have still not died yet, so you're still stuck with me. Deal with it.
Good. And we will see you all next time. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.